Crucial day today for the goods and services tax as the Parliament takes up those crucial pieces of legislation on the 29th for debate and discussion. Today, the bills being introduced in the Lok Sabha. Final remarks now from our panel of experts. And let me start by asking you, Rohan Shah, each of you will get a minute. If you were to make a sales pitch to the Finance Minister ahead of the crucial meeting on the 31st, what is it you will say to him in exactly 1 minute, Mr. Shah?
So one, the whole point in terms of the education and migration of the SMEs, it needs a lot of attention. The second is, let's not forget the regulators. For many of them also, this is a new tax and the service element has not been administered by many at the state level. And the last thing I'd say is, while we have this huge focus right now on the law, the key issue is going to be the approach. I think if the approach is going to be administration by targets, people are fearful that there will be issues like penalties, seizures. I think the focus has to be, and that has to come from the FM, that the first phase has to be all about participation and not policing. We are bringing in a new law, and the approach of how we administer will make a huge difference to how it's received.
Well, that's a very well put. The approach of the first phase has to be about participation and not policing. Money, your time starts now. 1 minute to the Finance Minister.
I would say that considering the number of things that are required to be done from now, we should now start possibly looking at 1st September as an option. And the sooner that is announced, the better it is for business, because people will be able to prepare, keeping in mind that beyond 1st September, there's going to be no date change, because that is the final day of the rollout. So instead of the date being announced possibly in the month of May or in the month of June, it may be better to have a date of 1st September, considering the number of things that have to be achieved between now and between then.
Okay, fair point. So 1st of September as the rollout date should be what the government should consider. Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran, your time starts now, sir.
I think for the service sector, the central registration will still be considered, and one of the important things for the success of this particular GST program, both central and state GST. That's one of the important points I would like to say. Another one is with regard to the composite scheme, composite nature of the work contract that can be revisited, and possibly, as Rohan mentioned, that valuation needs to be also be revisited, because we are now trying to have valuation principle of single point taxation of import of customs to multi-point taxation of the GST, which is, I think, putting a square peg in a round hole.
Okay, so issues are related to valuation of services. Hari, your time starts now. 1 minute.
Shereen, first and foremost, I would say, please listen to the working committees that have been constituted and hear the recommendations carefully for each of those sectors, which also includes centralized registration. Second, anti-profiteering. Taking the cue from what Rohan mentioned about not policing, even if anti-profiteering is a need of what the law is, let it be a light touch, let it not be intrusive, let it not lead to litigations and penalties. And the third is, please carefully draft the rules and come out with the rules only after you listen to what the recommendations of the working committee are. And the GST Council, especially the state, needs to be sensitive to what the working committee provides as inputs, because there's where I feel are the problems. I don't think the center is the problem.
Center. Okay, so the states need to listen to what the expert groups are saying, and policing with a light touch. Pratik?
Yes, so I'll not repeat the points have been repeated, but on the working groups, I think is a very, very good initiative by the government. But I find few sectors are missing. Shereen, media is not there in that. I think that's equally an important sector. FMCG is not there, consumer durables and things like that. So I think, it's important that, this list is expanded and proper time, adequate time is given to the working group to come up with the recommendations. Second point is on rate of tax, not related to the law, but it's very important that don't fall into the temptation of putting more and more products in the 28%. I think that will just break the the structure of GST, in many sense. And third is the transition stock. I think already we are seeing a lot of companies have told us that dealers and distributors have stopped purchasing stuff because they fear that they will not get full protection of the taxes paid under the current regime in GST. So, we need to have clarification on that as soon as possible. And, and fourth would be on place of supply rules. Where do I pay taxes? There has to be, the working group has to do this industry by industry, take examples and tell the industry, how do you pay tax, which state do you pay tax, how will those place of supply rules come. Otherwise, I'm not too bothered about the centralized registration for services, but if the place of supply rules have ambiguities which you have today, then you're looking at long-term litigation on this one.
Okay, so thanks very much again, Pratik. Arun, I'm going to take the liberty of excluding the media from this discussion since they've been excluded by the government from the expert committee, as Pratik pointed out. Unfortunately, we're completely out of time. Rohan, Pratik, Hari, Mani, Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran and Arun, thank you very much for joining us on what has been a landmark day for the goods and services tax. We will regroup perhaps earlier than the 31st and especially on the 31st as the GST Council meets and we get some clarity as far as the rules are concerned. Appreciate you joining us here on this CNBC TV 18 special. For now, from all of us here, goodbye and many thanks for watching.